Welcome to the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast with your co-hosts Teague Fenwick and Steve Lurkwood.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast. I'm your host, Teague Fenwick, coming to you live from Holmen. Joining me, as always, from Kaukauna, it's my co-host, Steve Lurkwood. Steve, great to be here.
Always pumped to be here, Teague. Excited for this one tonight.
And we're not live, I guess. I shouldn't have prefaced with that, but I'm excited too. We got part 6 of the Jeff Matczak series going on. Not something we planned, just something we promised and interviewed every team state champ coach, and here we are on the 6-peat.
And Teague 6-peat, and keep in mind, we had to finagle this one around a little bit, do some rescheduling. The 6th time also with a Brewer game. Well, not started yet, but we always have to do the podcast tonight with a Brewer game on.
So without further ado, our guests are right in the middle of us here on the screens. Now Jeff, you might need a correct. Are we at 10 titles now? 10-time team state champ coach, currently running on a 6-peat, the head coach of the Kaukauna Galloping Ghosts, Mr. Jeff Matczak. Jeff, glad to have you back, brother.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks, guys.
And hey, I looked everywhere. I gave an earnest attempt at trying to find my Kaukauna orange for tonight, and I could not find it. So I ended up going with the next best thing. I got my St. Croix Falls shirt, which is a D1 school now. So I am repping D1 in this instance. Point. Yeah.
All right, I hear you. We needed to get to 10, and now I'm going to set you guys up. All right. So
I do have a Kaukauna shirt. I have a lot of shirts, Jeff. I am not good at organizing.
I went with Switzerland, so to speak, but I just thought of this, Teague, actually, with competitive balance. I decided to go with a shirt where maybe they got to move Kaukauna up to compete with. But let's go after a little Parkside there.
Nice.
Love it, Steve.
Good year.
Love it.
Great year.
Jeff, first and foremost, how's your spring been?
Wet. It's like everybody. Cold. But it's 70 degrees today, so things are heating up, and state freestyle tournaments in the past, and Northern Plains this weekend. Brewers are in full swing. Fishing season's in full swing, and school's winding down, so it's great.
NL Central is pretty tight right now too, so
it is. It's a weird division. It's you got, I think I don't know which American League division. Everybody's got a losing record, and everybody in the NL Central's got a winning record, and it'll all start evening out. There'll be some separation. You have to be 500 on June 1st. Within 10 games of the first place team, and you're right. Then the season starts. So that's where it'll be at that time. The Brewers are fine.
You can't make the playoffs in April and May, but you can certainly miss them in April and May.
Yeah, you can dive, and you can take off and get off to a good lead and put some separation in, but nobody's really doing that except maybe the Dodgers. So, yeah. Maybe the Braves too in the NL East, because that division everybody's losing, and they're kind of taking off, so they could put some separation in, but there's a long way to go. That's what makes that sport great.
Quick note on the weather. I don't know if you guys are getting this in your corner of the state, but your corners, I should say. Wisconsin, the Midwest, kind of becoming the new Tornado Alley. Yeah, we've had a tornado or two touchdown in my neck of the legs.
I watch them pretty close on the Max Velocity website when there's stuff going on. I watch that guy religiously. He's pretty good. But yeah, there were like a couple entertaining Fridays, and you're just hoping people protect themselves. And I think it was 2 Fridays ago where it was down in Janesville and things like that. Yeah. So they're mentioning all these wrestling towns, and I think of all my people down there in Mukwonago, and it's heading towards this city and that city and stuff. So, yeah, it'll die down, but yeah, it's been kind of rough.
It'll soften up here soon.
That's right.
Fellas, let's get to some wrestling talk here. And Jeff, you've done this drill before. You know the first question. You want to guess the first question for this year's team or no?
No idea. No, I can't predict the team. You're unpredictable.
Now I follow the rubric pretty straight. But
that's right.
When did you realize that this year's team had the potential to be team state champs, Jeff? Was it when you were returning like 10 or 12 starters or what?
Yeah. It's not rocket science. You can screw that up, but yeah, I mean, you've said it all. We had a really good team last year, and the big year was 2024 when this group of kids as sophomores, represented the majority of the team, was able to get by a really good Wisconsin Rapids team. And then, it sets you up to do some things for a couple of years, but that doesn't always happen. And we've seen it through history, and you learn from history and really watch that. And, I think sometimes it's easier to coach sophomores than it is seniors. No, I don't think sometimes. I know all the time, just from a learning curve and control of, parents and of what they're able to get their kids to, and then freedom sets in and kids are going. But you have to give those kids that freedom, but then you have to also talk about it with them that, hey, you're older now and you're doing your own things and you want independence and stuff, but remember what you signed up for. It'd be an awful shame if you let all that freedom, so to speak, derail you from doing what you've wanted to do. So, you have to bring that back. And so that's the challenge. And, but as far as, the talent and all that, you have to keep kids eligible and you have to keep them progressing and getting better. You never want anybody to do worse than they did the year before. And I think all of our seniors, I know like every single one of them, if there were 7 or 8 in the lineup, depending on the week, all those kids stepped up from the year before.
Mm-hmm. With knowing how many returners you have coming back, or even with the kids that left, is there any adjustments you made to the start of the season training, or was there any like leadership vacuum that had to be filled? And what were those adjustments like, if there were any?
No, actually, I backed off on all that in years as far as captains and things like that did not exist. Team camp did not exist. It was about individual development, letting kids have their time, giving them what they need, and then pulling it in January and saying, okay, guys, it's time to pull together and be one. And you can let that get away from you, but it never did. Like the kids naturally kind of gravitated towards each other in the beginning. You didn't force it, but then you kind of said, okay, you said things that didn't need to be said, but they were with you all along. And because, we're in a different world right now. Like the captain thing, it's kind of archaic. It's not, I haven't named captains for a few years right now. Me and my, our softball coach, Tim Rohrig, who wins 4 state titles in 5 years. Me and him were talking one time and he said, yeah, I haven't had captains. He had all this talent and he had these incredible sophomores and, all-state Gatorade players of the year. They were young and they're winning state titles. And it's like, your seniors are supposed to be your captains. But I think in wrestling, it's a little easier because it's individual and you have to, the kids got to take care of themselves. They got to do what they've got to do. And then when it's a dual meet, then that's the only time that it really changes where, okay, we might have to move things around and you got to be a team. But yeah, that part. And then now there's a young team coming back. So now you might take a few kids and say, okay, you 3 guys, I want you, hey guys, listen to these guys. They're going to have to lead you right now. But it changes every year.
Jeff, what's team camp? I know you may have talked about it last year, and forgive me, I can't remember what it was, but talk about your team camp. What was that? And you didn't do that this year.
No, we haven't. So we'll go to, I've been going to team camp since the 90s, started with Augsburg, Jeff Swenson, John Smith was there every year. And I started with me, running out there and, with a parent and you get them out there and you try to get your kids together. And now with then the contact days came in where you could get more involved with that. And now the third stage is, it's opened up a little bit, but we were going back to Jeff Jordan in St. Paris, Graham, Ohio,
Yeah.
back in 2008. We went out there. I think we were the only Wisconsin team that was out there at that time. And if someone was out there at that time before that, I'd let me know. But and then we went for maybe 9 out of 11 years. I think the last time we went was 2018 or something like that, 2019. And we just really liked the system. And now, after we went there for a few years and I talked to a lot of people, there were 10 schools from Wisconsin going out there. I know Justin took the Freedom guys out there, and I know Kyle's been going out with Nino over the years and probably moved on from it. But part of that is because Jeff now retired from the head coaching position, and he's still involved in the camps. But that was the single most in 2009, 10, 11, 12. When we were going out there, it was by far, there was nothing that could touch that. Ben didn't have his camps going yet in 2009 and 10. And so it was really good. And it was an investment. And, but the thing about that is you went out, you learned a system. Okay. So you went out, the kids were all for 5 days. They were learning a system by one coaching staff from St. Paris, Graham, Ohio. And they were nationally ranked and just whooping up on the grand state of Ohio and battling St. Ed's and Blair Academy. So he'd bring his guys in. Like, I'll give you an example, like Robert Lee. He would wrestle in that tournament or wrestle in that camp, and he would come in there, and Jeff Jordan would bring in 5 guys for live wrestling every night that would just go. Matt Colazzi, who was a national champ, I believe, at Princeton, was wrestling. He was an Ohio local kid that wrestled in Jeff's club. He would come in every year for those 5 days and wrestle Robert. Not to mention, it was Bo and Micah and Rocky Jordan. Like, we were there when those kids were in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. So all of our kids were wrestling Bo, Rocky, and Micah Jordan. And I remember watching Marinelli. And then so later when we were there, 2014 or 15 or so, I remember the greatest night of watching live wrestling. I got to watch Hartford brought some kids out, and Bo Bresky was wrestling Marinelli, the Bull. And I watched them wrestle like 20 live goes. And I think there were like 4 takedowns, and it was 3 for Marinelli and 1 for Bo Bresky. And they wrestled like I said, like 20 or 30 2-minute goes, and people just cleared out of the room and watched those guys get out. It's where, if you were somebody in the country, you were going to Jeff's camps. So that was a camp that we invested a lot in. Recently, a few years, probably 3 years, after COVID, we went to David Thorne's camp at his farm out in kind of south central Minnesota. So David, what he did, and I think other schools have been there. I think Holman maybe have been there, maybe not. I don't know. But the thing about what David did was he created Jeff Jordan 2.0 in the Midwest, in Minnesota. So when David was young, his dad took him in St. Michael Albertville. They went to the St. Paris, or to the Jeff Jordan state champ camp. And he was out there a number of times and became this multiple time state champ and All-American for the Gophers. And, him and his brothers, legendary. But then he bought his grandfather's farm down in, I can't even remember the name of the town. It's St. Paris, Graham is like driving through Freedom. It's about the same size as that. And then where David Thorne started his camp, it's about the size of, I can't even name a town around here that anybody would even know. It's like there's nothing there. It's out in bean fields, soybean fields, corn fields. There's nothing out there. And it's him and his wife, his 3 kids. Yeah, it's 3 young kids. And it's Dundas is what it is. And it's 3 young kids, and he's got this property. And then he's got this facility that has 2 mats in it. And that's what he does. And it's phenomenal. So he basically runs the same system. The only thing is what Jeff Jordan did was he had 3 different sites he would run his camps at. His high school, his old horse barn, it's called the farm or the office. And then he had another little school out in town that he would run a 3rd camp. So he'd have 100 kids at every facility. He had 3 coaches and all his wrestlers as a clinician. So he had more of a staff and a larger operation, where David, it's 1 building, it's 50 kids in that building, but they're the same. They sleep on the mats, they cook the meals there, and it's wrestling for 5 days. These are no frills camps. They're not, we did the Augsburg. We went to Missouri when Ben was a freshman, down to Missouri. We went to Tiger style camps with Smith, and it was Ben's freshman year. It was like, okay, Ben went there, we're going there. And so we went out there with 30 kids, did the intensive camps, did the team camp. We've been to Nebraska when Jordan Burroughs was a sophomore or junior. Okay, he was battling Andrew Howe. We were out there then. That was pretty close, like 2010, 11. And, but we've been, what other colleges? When you talk Augsburg, obviously, we went to a camp in Dubuque. The college camps are great, but here's the problem with them. They're menu style. They're every clinician you have is something different. And it's a little hodgepodge. I don't know how to say it. They're good. They're valuable. Don't get me wrong. But
Sure.
if you really want to systematically improve your team, you have to go to some place where they're teaching a system. And that's what Jeff Jordan did. So, there's a script of drilling and moves and techniques. And it's like, we're not teaching anything crazy. We're going to teach the ABCs. And Jeff is phenomenal. And, we were out there all those years when Jesse Lang was his top assistant. And Jesse started Rudis, okay, with the heavyweight from Ohio State. My mind's blanking, but I remember sitting there with Jesse, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to start a clothing line company, and we're going to get this going. And we're going to call it Rudis, like the sword in the Gladiators, that Rudis sword they had. And we're going to call it this. And because Jeff was cage fighter.
Is Tommy Rowland's the name you were
Tommy
looking for?
Rowland. Yeah. We were sitting in Jeff's basement, eating popcorn, watching LeBron James play in the NBA finals for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I remember that night. And we were sitting there, and he's like, yeah. And they kind of invited the coaches over because they're like, hey, we're starting this company. And because Jeff, everything that he had was cage fighter, and that was from the DeSalvos, that MMA company out of Columbus. And that kind of went sour. And they decided they were going to start their own clothing line company for the Jeff Jordan camp and really appeal to just wrestling, like Nike's not doing anything and Asics and all these companies. But Jesse was like, I'm going to start this company called Rudis. And it was really nice clothing. And then here it is right now. So there were some pretty neat experiences there through that all. That's a team camp story. We don't.
That's a good. You know what?
This group of seniors had been out to David Thorne a couple times. Oh, one other camp we did that was pretty cool. This was a setup, and I've done a lot of camps in our room. I remember having what did Ben call his camps? The lethal weapon camps. When he was in college, him and Max and John, and he would bring up Josh Wade. He'd bring in all his guys. And we ran those, and I did some other camps, and brought in coaches from Apple Valley, and I remember I brought in Jack Reinwan and Bob Berceau. I just wanted these guys that had pedigree and were head coaches and were winning state titles, like come in and do things. I remember Tommy Klum when he was at Wisconsin. I really liked him, and he brought him in and did some things. Brought Augsburg in. When Swenson was just ripping off titles there, brought him in with Marcus Levesser and those guys. So we bring guys in, but one camp we did off that we just set up was with Izzy Martinez, who was at Montini and coaching all the fighters now. And he has Izzy has still got his building, and he had a new building down in, we've been down there a couple times, actually 3 times. in 3 different facilities. It's crazy. But the last time we went, I think was summer of 2019. And we went down there and we just said, Izzy, we want to come down. We want to sleep in your facility. A mom came down and cooked the meals for the kids. And he just like, you just have them. You can have them. And he brought in all the Montini guys from his club, from Izzy Style, and they beat the crap out of every night. He had MMA fighters like flying in from Arizona, and they were doing like kickboxing demonstrations for our guys. And it's just like it was in an industrial park. It's a big room, and it has a weight room in it. And our kids just slept, and he had a little basketball court outside in the street. Our kids would go out and, tear it up during breaks. And but it was all
something about wrestlers and having the little urge to play basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about Izzy, so it was like going down and it's like, Izzy, you got our guys for 4 days. We're going to stay 3 nights. And he set a price, and our kids all paid him, and parents bucked up and got him down. It was great. It was really good. It was different than Jordan. It was about street tough and just being tough. He'd take him to the bridge and all these things. Like, he was really good. So kind of get creative with that. And for me, it's like, all right, guys, why are we paying other guys to train our guys? Like, our room has got to be a place where, you come in and get your training in. But also with the WWF and all the camps and the clubs since COVID, how big AWA has got. Like, we have more kids, just like every school. You might have had 1 or 2 kids 10 years ago going to AWA, but now it's the place. Nazar has exploded. So they're doing a lot of that, and kids are signed up and committed to do that in the summer, and you don't want to pull them away from that and go to a team camp somewhere. So, we haven't done one, and we probably won't, again, but it's a very important part of a program's development, but you have to pick the right one for what you want.
I like the thoughts on the system. Like, it makes sense as opposed to kids being like, all right, we're going to learn takedowns today, and we're going to learn leg riding tomorrow, and then escapes the net, as opposed to like when you bring up the system where each day builds upon itself.
Yeah.
That
I think at Jeff Jordan camp, you didn't you were there, you were Sunday night. So you just walked in and you did live wrestling. Monday is 3. Well, there's instruction in the morning, instruction in the afternoon, live at night. And you did that Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday you had 2 more instructions. Then you took off Thursday afternoon. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You had like 8 instructional periods. You might have spent 30 minutes on the mat. The rest of it was from neutral.
Nice.
There's nothing from bottom. There was nothing. It was all right here.
Wow.
Good, especially with 3-point takedowns. Oh, that was probably been before 3-point.
That was way before that.
Way before. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Teague, I don't know where you go from here. I mean, that was I know the reason why, numerous coaches tune in, because they just want to get a nugget, from what the great coaches in the state are doing. And I tell you, that answer right there, Jeff, might have been worth the price of admission. So.
Well, you think about it economically, like if a kid goes and spends, $500 at a camp somewhere, and he goes there and he develops himself, then he comes in your room, and then your terminology is different. It's just, what are we doing? Like, why are we behind Russia? Because Russians they don't start wrestling when they're 5. They start when they're probably 11 or 12 after they've done their gymnastics curriculum. And so they identify those freak athletes. They get them into probably a middle school type club, even 5th grade, maybe what would be for us. And then they have one coach in a club that takes them all the way until they're done wrestling. And so if they go to the Olympics or to the World Championships or to the Russian Nationals or the Asian Finals, like, from what I've heard, that is their guy, okay? And so they have elite level coaches in their youth clubs. They're elite, like they can coach, they can sit in your corner at a World U15 event. And so we don't do that in America. We have our local dads, and I'm not dispelling that. I'm just saying that's the way it is. We have such a high volume of people, and we try wrestling where they are identified for it. and they get really serious about it when they get into it. It's not recreational at all, in Europe. We try a lot of stuff here, and that's great. Even if you wrestle for 3 years as a youth, you can say you were a wrestler, but we have a high burnout, and we wrestle a lot of competition. So you identify that you're not very good early and you decide you're going to be done. Whereas over there, every competition they do is something, it's something big. So, you go and you compete and you fix it, and, you might wait a little while. Like, we have a lot of opportunities and that's good for us. Like, there's a lot of wrestling, there's a lot of stuff. But going back to how that translates to high school and youth, like, you want to do things in the off season, outside of your season, that are consistent to what, and the coaches and being involved, and what they're training on, so that you can carry that through and fix weaknesses and exploit their strengths and get really good at them. Common terminology. There's so many things in wrestling, but there's very few positions that are important. There's very few, like, be good at this. That's it. Like 5 things. If you can win in that position and have a lot of options to win that position, you're going to be good. And so I think that's the big thing. Why I say identify the right camp for you. And for some coaches, just like, there's the Matczak camps that are awesome, because you can have some fun there and you can go, but you're going to learn a lot of stuff. But you better pick out the things you really like, and then really, dive into them at some point quickly after that camp, because a week of June wrestling doesn't do diddly poop for you when December rolls around.
Yep.
Right. It's pick up those things, and now you got to train the tar out of them for the next 6 months until the season starts, so that it becomes something that you can use. And so I think camps can be a huge waste of money if you don't, identify the value. What is it that I want to accomplish? The other thing we did, we can get off of this, but I'm going to talk about the season, was about how you get there. The J-Rob camps is a perfect example of something that was big, late 90s, early 2000s. We had like 3 or 4 kids just say, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to be tough guys, and they went out and did it. And every one of them was a state champion, multiple champion. And it was like, that was big. And so that's not a thing anymore. But at the time, they believed in it. They did the 28 days, out there. And it just kind of, when they came back, they were different people. And then they just, got really good. So that's not something you can do with a team, but it started being a thing for like 5 or 6 guys. A couple kids went out, they pulled a couple buddies in, they pulled another one in, and they did it. And we were all about it.
The J-Rob camps, man, the stories I heard about those. Yeah. Well, Jeff, in regards to the season, I do have a question for you about your scheduling, but I'm not going to ask it for you right away. We'll wait till we get to that juncture, because we do have a big development this year as opposed to the last 5 years. And I think you'll know what it is, but we'll wait. Starting off, you guys go to the Howard Manley duels. You give up 19 team points. Just a very impressive performance across 6 duels. Is there anything, I guess, if you can talk about Howard Manley or anything like within this first month that you want to touch on, we can roll through?
No, it was individual matchups. I know the first match we wrestled there was Brady Spranger's state quarterfinal match. And he got off the bus and we had him ready for it. And he went out and he really performed well. I think he majored that wrestler. And then he had him in the state quarterfinals and he lost to him. It's still like, there's reasons you go down there and you find these guys and, those kids from East Troy, and we wrestled them. You have the kids from, McQuantico. They had their guys that matched up against, guys that were going to have tough matches. And so Waukesha West was there and was ranked, and, it's a good program. And, we just matched up phenomenal with them where we could win all the matches. So Early season, get matches. We wanted to get a lot of matches, take 18 kids down, get them all at least 2, and most of them we have 6 duels there. So you could try some kids out and get ready for big matches that were coming up.
And I know no JV team this year, reserve squad, we'll say. I know we've talked about that in prior years where if you're bringing a reserve squad, you want to make sure you have all 14 spots filled up. Guys, I have what could be a controversial question, and I know I'm not big on though. It's not a big curveball, Jeff. Don't worry. But
controversy, I don't even know what that means.
I know you guys usually, I've heard through the grapevine, you guys usually have like 30 to 35 guys in your wrestling room. First of all, is that correct?
Yeah, we had 35 this year.
And it kind of made me wonder, and I am big on wrestling having as many numbers as possible. Like the more kids we can get out, the better. I guess when it comes to building a championship level team, is there such thing as having too many numbers? And I'm not saying like cut kids or something, but is it kind of nice that you don't have a room full of 60 guys that you're working with?
It isn't controversial at all. I think it's, I think I'd love 60 guys, 60 gals, 60 people, whatever. But there is a standard, okay, of what it is. So that is what it is. We have, there's 35 kids, and some of them, a few of them really struggled this year, but they worked their tails off. And so I could get there could be 20 more kids that could come out in our school and struggle or be good, but they're just not willing to commit to that for whatever reason. It's just, this is what it is. You put it out there, and there's not a lot of yelling and screaming in the room. Like it isn't. Like it blows up maybe 3 times during the year. When you think of 70, 65 practices or whatever there is, and there just isn't a lot of that. Because this is what it is. This is the standard. Like this is how we do things. It's not what we're doing, it's how we do it. And so this is how you have to do it. And there's not negotiating. We're not negotiating how we drill and how we run and how we lift and how we, approach competition and that type of thing. Like it has to be a certain way. And some people say, well, that's, it should be more fun. And so, you have to balance the fun with the reality of, what do we want to be? So if you want to join something fun, I'm sure there's a lot of things that are more fun. We have a ski team. We have a fishing team, and the fishing team is phenomenal. Like they go out and like, I don't want to fish. It gets too cold on the ice. So that's not my thing. Like maybe someday then I'm going to start ice fishing, but everybody's got interests that are different, and everybody's got a thing. And so when there's that standard, the numbers are going to stay, right here. And you could say, well, boy, what if you only have, 15 kids or 20 kids? Well, then I'm going to have to make it more fun, right? Then I'm going to have to, to be able to fill a couple of lineups and have something. You have to do things that are going to attract some kids into it, but it's still going to go back to, if you want to have success, you have to have a standard of work and commitment and, drive and do all those things. And that's where that 35 to 40 number, this was down the year before. We had 42, and, you're sitting between 35 and 40, and you have to have numbers. Like it's huge. You can't, have 20 and expect to have sustained year after year. So you got to have in the 30s, near 40. But with that, having 50 or 60, it just didn't work in our school. Like it wouldn't work. I always said, like, I could probably do it. I don't know, maybe not, but like I could probably. I mean, I'm a Phi Ed teacher, so like I love all the kids in class. I get along with them, and we have a good time. But that's different. And some kids will say to me like, "Hey, Matczak, think I should come out for wrestling?" And I'll go, "Nah, what else do you like to do?" And I'll they'll look at me like, whoa. And I'm like, well, I mean, it depends, like it's a deep conversation. You're throwing a big thing at me right there. And they expect me to go, maybe a younger, more naive me would say, yeah, you should wrestle. It'll be great. And then, but they're a little shocked. And I'll say, well, boom, boom, boom. And they're like, yeah, well, I got a job. And so, can we negotiate nightside practice? Game, it ends right there. That's not what we do. So, or, sometimes they want to prove me wrong and then they come out and they're really good. They're like, I'll take a Bryce Knutson this year. He was a senior and he came to me in like February of his freshman year. And he said, hey, I was eating lunch. He walks in with Colin George, both of them, and they both were good wrestlers. And so this is 2023. And so they come in and they're like, hey, we want to join wrestling. And they thought I was going to say, yeah, come to practice tonight. I said, well, we've got 2 more weeks of the regular season and then we get into the postseason. So we've got about 6 weeks to go. So on March 8th, that's a Monday, come down here. I'll be eating lunch right here. If you want to wrestle, we'll set you up. We'll tell you what you have to do. And they're like, oh, okay. He turned us down. Well, those 2 guys showed up on March 8th. I forgot about it. And they come knocking on the door. And the rest is history. They did some spring. They started lifting with the guys. Like guys are lifting right now. And they came in the summer. And then they came in their sophomore years and they were all right. And then their junior year. And then Bryce Knutson, I mean, he won 57 matches his junior and senior year on varsity, having, just 1 year to cut his teeth. So he had the right stuff. He had it, but he had to be kind of like, if you're going to do it, I'm not going to just add a number to you right now and you're going to come out for the last month. You're going to have to, we'll do this right. Like, let us get our stuff done because we're ready to go right now. Like we're ready to take off. And I don't want you guys to come in as newbies right now. It wouldn't be good for you. It wouldn't be good for the rest. But if you're serious about what you're asking, here's the date. And they were there.
That's awesome.
Love
That's
it.
character right there, man.
Yeah. Okay, I forgot
There you go.
I forgot we were on the scope of the season. Jeff, you're knocking it out of the park tonight.
Yeah,
Perfect
good,
timing on that, as hopefully the Brewers are knocking it out of the park. As
they don't hit
pitch against the
runs,
Cardinals just 7 minutes ago.
They don't hit homers, but maybe they're what do they call them? They're just kind of woodpeckering it a little bit.
0-0 middle of the first, and we are at the Husky right now. You guys finished first place, 120 points ahead of Holman. New venue this year, Jeff. So you get the varsity and JV in the same spot.
Yeah, I like that. And then we won it finally. After.
That's right. You broke the Minnesota curse.
Hit the Minnesota curse out of there, and we wanted St. Michael Everett to be there. I mean, I would have really loved that. And there was Crown. What was the
team from Iowa that was going to?
Yeah, it wasn't Crown Dundee. It was but they were
Don Bosco was.
There you go, Don Bosco, and they really, really spectacular program. So we were like, man, that would have been unbelievable. But they didn't. Still a great tournament. Holman, Rapids, Nina, and a lot of good individuals. Just great competition. The facility was nice because kept it rolling. JVs were over in the other gym, and it was bigger for them. So we had some downtime. I went and I watched. I don't know if I saw all of our kids wrestle over there, but I tried to see everyone wrestle a match and watch our coaches coach and do their thing. And then, they were able to come in the gym and watch the finals like they could before. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
Good experience. Well, Jeff, anything for the tournaments or duels between the Husky and the holiday tournament you went to?
No, yeah, I mean, we had a conference-wise, we were pretty light in the front end. We didn't have Neenah and Hortonville until January, and they were 2 and 3. But we went to the Flavin down in Illinois, and we went there specifically for wrestling Holman at Team State. See 3 teams that were almost identical to Holman, and get or anybody else. If we were going to get beat, it was going to be by a team that just was stacked in the lightweights and had some good upper weights, but we were pretty good there. And we had good lower weights too, where we could get wins against some teams. But the 3 teams we wrestled there, and that was before, that was right after Christmas. It was like the 28th and 29th of December. So that was everything that it was cracked up to be. And, got to see nationally ranked teams and Montini, Joliet Catholic, Marmion Academy, IC Catholic Prep. We wrestled those 4 schools. We went 2 and 2, and Providence was there. We didn't see them, but we basically had 2 matches that we could feel good about, and then we were going to have 4 nasty ones, and where we had to get really state champion caliber type matches. And so, we got our ass kicked in 2 of them, and we won a close one. And we put an ass kicking on Montini. Some things went bad for them that round. It was the 6th and final duel. But we wrestled really well and handled probably the adversity and the grind of that tournament probably a little better. So it was a wonderful experience. I think it had a big part of us getting to where we needed to be at the end. I mean, you can't take a December duel and put it in March and say that's going to be it. But
Yeah.
we needed to get beat. We haven't been beaten in a duel for a while. We haven't wrestled that level of competition in several years. So it was time to feel, the brunt end of a stick and feel some real just, a team that's kind of sticking it match after match at, and there's not much you can do about it. And our kids are like, all right, so, okay, we have to learn how to say, but it's like a team like Holman would have been, like in some of those teams, it would have been great duels too. How their lightweights would have matched up against these prep academies, these Catholic academies down in Illinois. They were all fantastic, great coaching, tough.
Well, I didn't ask it, but you answered my question of what drove you to do a holiday tournament this year. And
Sure.
Yeah,
got
like
me.
sometimes you got to do it. And this was the year where we needed that really, really bad. So it was, it was a call in the summer, and they had a spot and we took it.
Yeah, you know it's a good turn. I mean, you guys losing as a team. Yeah, when Liam Crook takes a loss at a tournament, that's
Right.
when you know.
Yeah,
it's,
and he's wrestled. He wrestled him at was either the freestyle national duels or Liam would tell you where it was, and had a match, and he got kind of beat up by him. But we were, we got a 3-point takedown, so we were up by a couple points and riding with about 50 seconds to go. And, that's pretty good. Liam can put some time on, but he changed us over, got us off of him, got to his feet, cut for 1. Okay. We didn't have any stallings on us. It was a pretty good, hard fought battle. And then, we got, he got to our leg. He hit a leg attack. He hit a little, probably I would call it a young gun single, kind of came flaring in and cartwheeled his knees and got us. And, we went baseline, kind of sat, and he shackled us, took us down, but we had enough time to get 1. And he just kind of put a hard ride on us those last 15 seconds or so. So that was good. It was like what he needed to dominate and win we had a tough quarterfinal match at the Cheesehead against Mount Horeb. Like that was a scary one, but like the semis, the finals were that kind of, and all the way through the state tournament series, like just snapped them in. And I really wish he could have finished an undefeated season again. Like but if there's ever a good loss, that was one of them.
Yeah.
And he was ranked like 6th in the country. Liam was right behind him down there a little bit. So it definitely, why I want to win, it would have been a great win for him to jump up him in the rankings for just bragging rights, things like that, to be ranked, top 5 or 6 in the country at that way, as opposed to, him being there. So it was just kind of a little personal thing. But it was a great match.
Jeff, you have it's a 3 or 4 week period going from Husky to the Illinois Dual Tournament, and then at that's a grind of a schedule right there, brother.
Yeah, there's 3 out of 4 weekends. It's good, but
the
thing is, if you have a good team, it's perfect. It's not like all your kids are taking 12 losses. I'll tell you, Andy DiPiazza he wasn't feeling well at the Flavin, and I think he went 1-4 there. We had to pull him out in a match. We didn't wrestle him against one of the teams. Otherwise, he would have taken a 5th loss. And it's like, all right, 5 losses in 2 days. And, he's a 2-time placer, and we got the Cheesehead coming up, and it wasn't going to impact the duel, but he was fighting out there. And then the Cheesehead was the same thing. He just wasn't, he just hit some kids that were really good. He probably lost 2 matches at the Cheesehead that you'd say, hey, Andy, we got to, these, but he righted the ship and then got to some competition back in states where he could do some things. And, your confidence gets kind of beat up. That's, like I've always said, the danger of a Cheesehead tournament is, you can be a state champion and take 3 losses in a row, and that doesn't happen at any other tournament. Doesn't happen at the NCAA tournament. You're out after 2. So, unless you're wrestling for 8th place or semi-slide to 6th. But it was after the Flavin and the Cheesehead, there was one situation like that's, and people are like, oh, I don't feel sorry for Andy DiPiazza. He's a 3-time, placer. He's a good wrestler. And I was like, no, those are the kids you worry about the most. They're good wrestlers. And, what does that do for his psyche? And he invests a lot and takes any loss really hard. And now you lose 4 at the Cheesehead. You lose 8 matches in 2 back-to-back tournaments. I didn't think I'd have 8 losses all year. And now here you are in the middle of the season and you've already got that. But that was, he came out of it well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes kids, they're not used to losing that much. Skills at that level. Yeah, definitely did come out of it all right. Going to the Cheesehead, Jeff. How would you rate your guys' Cheesehead performance? Because I know you guys got 10th as a team.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with the Cheesehead, you get 1 or 2 bad spots in a bracket, and that can really swing team points. So I'm not going to just base your performance off of where you place. Also, I'd love to have a team that places top 10 at the Cheesehead.
Yeah.
Right.
One just really stupid goal every year is to say, guys, let's be the top Wisconsin team at the Cheesehead. Let's start with that. Okay. And it's, it doesn't always happen, but it's like, hey, let's finish amongst, because in the end, you're judged by how you do in your state tournament, right? There's no teams that are outside our borders that are competing at the state tournament. I'd rather win a state title than a Cheesehead title. We do not have any signs in our school. We'll throw a Cheesehead top 4 or 5 trophy in our trophy case. We won it once, not the tournament it is today. Took 3rd, took 4th, we have a bunch of trophies. But other than that, like, we have our state placers on the wall, our state champions on the wall, our state teams on the wall. We list our qualifying teams, but there's nothing for the Cheesehead or any other tournament. And you could go win a fantastic tournament and it's just a step along the way. So that, one thing is we were able to accomplish that. It was a weird year. Like after I saw the seeds come out, I'm talking to our coaches and we're like, how do we get, 6 guys into the top 6 like we had last year? Or so we lost Peyton Lee and Nikki Jenkins. Peyton was 3rd and Nikki was 4th or 6th or something. He lost his place match last year, but we still have all the other guys back and some other guys should make up those points. You'd think, we were 4th the year before, we should be in the trophy hunt for the top 6, but we had a hard time getting guys into the top 16. Like you have to get into the top 16 winning that first match. You have to win, basically you want to get, 10, 11, 12 guys into that top 16 and then push half of them into the top 8 and then push a number of those guys into the top 6 where they're wrestling in the 3-ring circus on Saturday night. So there's levels of it. And when I'm looking at our opening round matchups, to get the top 16, it's like, we're going to have to upset, 4 kids just to get half our team into the top 16. And I think we won one. I think Rick Ritchie won one of those tough ones, got in there, but it was just the guys that had the big matchups and everybody else, they took a pretty hard kicking. And then, now they're wrestling for 17th through 30, whatever place. And they get wins there, but they're not scoring any points for the team. So there was a little quirky scoring, like firepower is so big at the Cheesehead. It's so big. You got to come in. And I look at the team that won it from Missouri. They were nowhere to be found last year. And I don't know if they had guys out, but they come in and they win it this year over Southeast. Yeah, they were unbelievable. They were so tough. But I don't know if I really didn't look at last year's lineup postseason last year and then what they had at the Cheesehead this year to see, okay, did these, how many kids jumped up a level, new kids, transfers, 8th graders, guys that were hurt the year before, whatever the case may be. But they historically made probably the biggest jump. Danny Pieper and his crew came up and were a good team when they came that first year, 2 years ago, but they were the class of the tournament then in 1 year. So that was phenomenal. And like Montini, Joliet Catholic, 2 teams we beat in duels at the Flavin, they just kicked our tail. Their firepower was just too much for us at the Cheesehead. Duel, yeah, we were fine. We can go with them, but they exposed us a little bit there. So it was rough overall, though. It was okay. It was an okay tournament. We didn't have Colin DeGroot available there. Would have scored some points. Nehemiah was out of the tournament after the quarters. So, he slid down to 8th place or something in that bracket. He was a placer the year, but I think he was 4th. So lost to a kid from Montini and had an injury that he beat the week before. So there were some things that we needed to be really good in all those other spots to probably push up into the top 8, but that was probably as high as we were going to get.
I'm just looking at box scores right now. Hickman won it without any finalists. I forgot about that, Steve.
That's right.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah. But some 3rds, 5ths, you get.
Oh, everyone. So all 10 of their wrestlers did place top 10. So
that's amazing. Yeah. They had 10 guys there.
Yeah.
And, you can do that. Like, well, you only had 10 guys. Yeah. But take any team there and pick their top 10 guys, and it's not going to change the team score much because you just don't score many points. And all you're scoring is match points. You're not getting any placement points, And then you say, well, a pin is still worth 2. If you get 3 pins on that top bracket, that's 6 points. Yeah, but it takes 600 to win the tournament. So what the hell is 6 points doing for you?
On the same weekend as the Cheesehead, I know you don't coach these guys every tournament, Jeff, but it was the WWA JV state qualifier, and then 2 weeks following was the JV state tournament. And I'm sure people every year wonder, oh, wow, like where are these Kaukauna guys coming out of the woodwork? Well, if you look at the prior year's JV state finals, you'll see a lot of names that are having success at the varsity level the next year.
Yeah, it's been a big thing since 2015, whenever that started. I mean, I think it's good. I think the teams that take advantage of it, they show up there and, um, you know, all of our lineup, can start with Nehemiah as a freshman, was second there as a freshman at 215, and Zach Winnikins was there. I don't even know if he placed or what his highest placement was. Brady Sprangers was a freshman state champ there. Uh, Colin DeGroot, I think, was a freshman state champ there. Liam never wrestled there. He was varsity, obviously, all the years. Uh, but and Andy didn't wrestle there, but all the other guys, they placed there pretty high, scored points. They go through that process. And the final placement matches they're really good wrestlers. Like, they're kids that are a collection of talent around the state that are stuck behind somebody. And so, we had a really good performance in the upper weights this year, winning, winning some championships. So, that's where we needed guys to show, and they're gonna fill right in this year where we really need it.
Good to know. Good to know. uh, I,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. It's been that was a
No,
poor
this is
silence
good.
by me.
I feel like I'm just sitting here listening, but I am totally into this, guys.
Jeff,
This
you
is,
just have me like drawn in, and then like you get done talking, like, oh, I still got a show that I
Oh,
have.
yeah, that's right. You can jump up to go to Badger. You can go to Pulaski. Or what do you want to hit? Team?
Whatever, yeah. How do you, Jeff? This is your show. How do you want to attack it? We got you guys had a busy January in terms of event numbers, so however you want to attack the regular season. Otherwise, we can hit up the postseason now if you want.
We can hit up the postseason. I mean, Pulaski was good. That was the sectional all over again. And you have Denmark there, who made it to state, and Coleman, who was in the state final. It was just a great tournament, and we were healthy, and we're getting ready to go win it. So we had a really good tournament there, and we did the Badger Scramble. That's a tournament where we take 14 weight classes. We took probably 20, where they had room to fill weights. And again, those guys that are doing well at the, at JV, or maybe they're not even there. Maybe we, like a guy like Bryce Knutson, we did not wrestle at JV state. He didn't wrestle at the Cheesehead. He went as a senior. He said, well, Hunter got me in a practice match, so he's got the Cheesehead, and they're really close. And so then I just want to wrestle. I need to get ready. I want to be the guy at the end of the year. So what do you need to do? Well, go to the JV regionals, do that. He went and he won that. But then Hunter got hurt, at the Badger Scramble. They wrestled each other there. So he was going to be out for a while. So now we pulled Bryce out of the JV state tournament, and, you're kind of putting kids in and putting them kids out. And the Badger Scramble's great, to see Devin Kaz go out and beat some good kids at a heavyweight, and Ronnie Ramadani, at 144, winning some matches, and Lathan Hurst, a 157 pounder, who's 65. He filled in for Colin when he was out, so he's performing really well and doing some good things. So I probably get more excited. I get just as excited as I do of our kids that go and, wrestle in the finals, and, and take first at there. I just seeing a kid take third or fifth, that's a backup there, and beating guys that, maybe they're not beating the best kids in the bracket, but they're beating kids with, 25, 30 wins. And they're showing that, okay, I can be placed into our lineup, and I can do some things, or I can wrestle with this kid and go 6 minutes with them. So that's a fun tournament too. And then we get into the conference, and we had a great tournament there. Again, you got our conference was it was weird this year. Like, we had great top end, 3 ranked teams. And then you got a team like Kimberly, who's full and just has a lot of good athletes. And then the bottom end, the Appleton schools are struggling. Not not as much for numbers, but just with with elite kids. So, it was a year where it was 3 teams and just a lot of kids in the finals for Kaukauna and Hortonville, and Nina had a lot of guys too. So, it becomes kind of a thing there where we're battling it out and just wrestling for individual stuff. And we just had an epic performance. So that gets you ready for the sectional the next week. And we're seeing all these guys. I'm glad we didn't have a regional, because now you're just adding another match against Declan and Shepherd and Butsky and, those guys, and, the guys from Kimberly that you have tough matches with. You're just wrestling unnecessary matches. We dueled all those teams in January. Now we're at the conference tournament in Hortonville. We're seeing them at Pulaski. It's just, you don't want to wrestle a guy 8 times in a year. 7 is enough.
Yeah.
Right, 7's enough. Well, we can jump to the tournament where we spent the most time in one building with Jeff.
Well, before we attack the postseason, and Steve, you may have missed your cue during maybe our longest bout of silence on the podcast.
What was
you
my
want
cue?
to do some trivia?
No, wait, I tell you what. Why don't we? Let's do it at the end. I like trivia at the end. That'll work. Once we get done with Team State, we can end off with something fun. How about that?
So, Jeff, it does sound like you bring up, one less match against kids that you just otherwise wrestle again. Thoughts on the new postseason this year?
Yeah. Some things got to be fixed, but it's good because of the repetitiveness of seeing guys. I think the dual, like when it all came out, I went, okay, well, there's going to be some things. And then everything kind of evolves over time. So it's going to have to happen a few years, and then we'll see where it is. But overall, for the first year, it went about as expected. There was the quirky situations, and, like our team sectional, let's go to team. You got a lot of teams resting guys, giving duels. That was, against us, and they're, like Bayport, they're just doing the right thing. Like if, they're trying to get their team. They're trying to be smart about. We got a sectional that we just wrestled. We got state coming up in the Cole Center on a Thursday. And this is a Saturday, and it's like, those seeds came out. So they're. This is something that never any of us adult coaches have never had to psychologically, put ourselves through. It was simple back then. You wrestled this. There was no team. So now we're doing this team thing and. Going and wrestling these 3, possibly 4 duels that are high stakes to qualify our team as a wild card. And so, there's a lot going on there. Like we simplified some things, but you don't really ever simplify things. You add some complication that makes it tougher on kids. So, in a perfect world, you've just got 6 really good teams that are all fighting to win a sectional championship. And it's, I think, in basketball and baseball for sure, like you can be great on one day and do it. But in wrestling, it's like you got your 14 guys and we got our 14 guys. And this is going to be like, we can upset you in a match, but no, we got to win 8 matches. And so, that's not very realistic all the time. So, especially if you can qualify for team sectionals with 9 kids. You can score enough points at your regional with 7 or 8 kids and be a top 6 team. And then you got to go duel a team that's got 14 and, 5 of them are really good. And then you're forfeiting 4 more. So that's 9. So how are you going to win that duel?
Right.
I don't think other sports face that complication. You're happy to put 5 guys on the basketball floor against 5 other guys, and hopefully you can get their best player in foul trouble. And then, we get hot and start popping some threes and they go cold. And then, hey, here we go. You see that stuff happen. So I don't know, I'll work ahead. I'll just speak my mind a little bit. Like, was there a team, we're trying to build community excitement with the team sectionals, but was there teams that, considered opting out. It's like, well, we're going to have all these kids. We got to make weight. It's just the coward's way of approaching things, like, well, why would you do that? Well, you're not coaching. You don't get it. You don't know it. Like every coach has to do what's best for their kids. So that's that's making a bold statement right there. But are there teams that are thinking, this Saturday is we'd be better off doing this and then going and making weight, and first team we got to wrestle is this team. It's a little bit of a wrestling situation, but we got to build this, right? Like this is something that you got to give it a few years, and hopefully, it becomes what we see it to be, and not something that's, really hard for teams to feel like they have a chance in there, because a dual team, who the good dual teams are. Okay. And so now we're qualifying for a dual tournament with a big tournament, 16 team tournament, individual scoring performance. And so you don't always get the best dual teams there. And even if you do, then you have this disparity in lineups that are different than other sports. So the perfect world, everybody's got all 14, everybody's got tanks, and everybody's got guys that are willing to fight. And then you have a hell of a battle. And our sectional was pretty good like that way. Like all the Luxembourg, Bayport, Pulaski, Hortonville, Neenah, and ourselves, like those guys they can go compete with anybody. So like I know what it was, but even then guys are resting guys, trying to do what's best. If it can happen at ours, what's it doing, to some of the other sectionals too. But we've been talking about this for years, the super sectional and a bigger dual tournament for years. So, here it is. We've got it. We've got to build it, push it forward now.
For individual sectionals, coaching wise, did you feel like there was more a sense of urgency coming out of the gate now, given that there's no regional that you can maybe lose a match and be like, oh, whatever, like we'll be fine. And
are you talking especially that round one, T? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Yeah, because you lose round one, you're donezo.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you lose round one of the regional in the past, you were put yourself in a tough spot. You had to hope your guy won it, and then you could sneak back and take fourth and get to the sectional. So, that's an 8-1 matchup usually, or a 2-7, and you didn't see many of those, but they happened. But yeah, it was about the same. You had to win that first match to get in, and then you need some help, along the way. We had a lot of wrestlebacks. The quirky situation is when a kid is, wrestling in the final and he has no chance to wrestle back, because both of the guys that, like there's that situation where you did not have a chance for a wrestle back, or you were going to get a wrestle back no matter what. I meant like you were going to get a wrestle back. In the past, if you lost a wrestle back, but the guy you beat in the semis 1/3, you were going. And then we had a few situations where we were going to get a wrestle back. Kids were going to get a wrestle back no matter what, because the guy that was wrestling for third, and so you had that, that you didn't wrestle them. And so
there was definitely a learning period that Steve and I figured out when we were doing the finals, where it was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, this kid wins their third place match. Like, the guy that they lost to, lost on the other side of the console. Like, so this kid needs to win, and he's guaranteed a shot at a second place match. Like, there's so many more permutations of things that could happen that, I
think in our sectional, though, I'd look back, like the kids, all the top 2 qualifiers, they earned it that day. Like it always has been, like they earned it on that day. They won the match they needed to win, and they wanted to square up head to head. That doesn't mean there wasn't an upset, but that always is possible. That's what makes competition great. But you get you get 16 guys in a bracket, or at least 16 spots, and these 2 guys that went, there's no argument there.
Jeff, for you guys had by regular standards, pretty good day. 8 qualifiers. Sorry. 8 qualifiers. I think as every team could say through sectionals that some things went right, some things probably didn't go ideal. Yeah, that's the roller coaster that is individual sectionals. I think that is one thing that did not change from the postseason changing. It is a gut-wrenching day.
Yeah, it is. But in that sectional with 5 other highly ranked teams in the state, if you can get 8, that means the things that you expected to happen happened. If you can get 9 or 10, then it was even you probably had to win a match against a former qualifier or placer with somebody on your roster that wasn't that. So we had a good day overall. Like, it was a better sectional. Like the year before, we came out a little bruised and beaten, and this year we felt a little better about it. Of course, there's always one guy that you're like, well, that we had a shot at that weight. But it was very, very, very little this year.
I would guess the one on your team, but I think we're both thinking the same one, so we won't say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Otherwise, fellas, glad we got to hang out for 13 hours in the same gym.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
That
it was
is
long,
one-
and that'll get fixed.
Yeah, I'm guessing. I know this year they wanted 3 matches for everyone because it was kind of like you need a control subject to see how things go, and we just happen to be on the extreme end of that control. So I'm guessing Sectional B next year will probably have 4 mats at the very least. So, yeah. A good day of wrestling. And, now that everything's all said and done, we got to be a part of it, and now we got a story to tell people going forward.
Right.
Yep. It was, everybody had to learn it. So now we know how it goes.
Going on to individual state, real quick. Cardinals are up
Pop it up.
1-0 in the bottom of the third. Take us through individual state, Jeff.
Yeah, it's good. Real good tournament. You get some, the love the fact that it's seeded. People complain about the seeding. I think if there's going to be adjustment to seeding, I think it has to be head to head is more important than previous year state qualifiers, because I think it's if you're going to the state tournament and you're placing, you're winning matches there, that says a lot more than just qualifying. But a state qualifier is a state qualifier. But I think there were some situations where there were some head to head wins, and you're sitting behind somebody because they went to state the year before, and that's all, that's circumstantial. Like, I know we get guys to state some years that it's like, well, then you've got this unbelievable wrestler that doesn't make it to state because of the 2 guys that are wrestling in the state finals at that weight, or a first and a third or something like that. It's, no 2 sectionals are the same at each weight. Like, there's some geographical anomalies that happen, and it could be anywhere. But a little bit more, it's gotta probably, however, it's the head to head, I think, is something that's got to be looked at, put some, like, what's more important than head to head.
Nothing. That's why they wrestle the
Nothing,
matches.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And then our kids, we had good seeds. I'm talking at the state in general.
Yep.
It's not like we had bad seeds or things like that. We won, some matches that were toss ups. We lost some that were toss ups. So you go 50-50 in those. You don't feel too bad about it. Like, if you have 4 matches on Thursday night that these are toss ups and you win 2 of them, you take it. If you win all 4 of them, that happens sometimes. But then there's times where you lose 3 of 4 or all 4, and it's just it's a gut, where you're outmatched, and you just want to see a performance, and you want to see a kid go out and and fight hard. And if he comes up short, he comes up short. But I think we did well in the toss-ups. We pretty much split over the weekend, and then got all of our guys 7 out of 8 on the medal stand, and that's always good.
I know in the past years you've ran through the gambit of kids at state. I just want to say beforehand, I think probably one of my favorite Kaukauna results at state, to see Zach Winnikins end up on the podium, man. Like, that is the climb that he's made during his career is awesome.
Yeah, he had a really good tournament and just kept getting better and better. And I think Liam gets a lot of credit for that. Just being a guy that wrestled him a lot and was in his corner a lot and yelled at him a lot, and Zach listened to him. And so yeah, he just needed the confidence, in a few things that he did really well. And just going back, we mentioned Liam winning his 3rd state title and having a tremendous career, and just relaxed. And even though you've got a common opponent that you had success against in Ethy, young kid he'll have his time. You still have to go out and do it, because coaches, the Bayport guys, they're great coaches. So everybody can make adjustments and try to get it to the deep waters of a match and slow things down. And it was just like the takedown at the end of the first period, just getting up 3-0, opposed to 0-0 first. He gets away, or he, something happens. So now as the clock ticks and that match is a score away from winning, things start to tighten up and confidence builds. So, we were able to get that takedown at the end of the first to go up 3-0. Okay, now, you can start relaxing and putting points on. So he just had a phenomenal career. We had team state the week after, which he was fully invested in, but we've had a lot of kids, in that situation where, you're going out and you're doing that, and you can't really care about the next week. Like, it's your legacy, and he handled it really well.
Yeah, Liam, been fun watching him the last 4 years.
Yep.
And its individual career with a 3rd state title. Other Kaukauna results, D. Piazza, 5th place. Perry Bear, the little tornado at 132 qualifier. At Jackson Thorpe, 6th. At DeGroot, 4th. Sprangers, 5th. And Nehemiah Lendaby, at 3rd place finish.
Well,
I think he was 6th, 4th, and 3rd. So he never got what he wanted, but I'm really proud of him for always being there and, maximizing his ability and bumping up a year every year, and had good matches with all the guys in the brackets over the years, and it never shook out. But he's 3 medals at the state tournament. We've never had a heavyweight. Keaton won a couple state titles. Dave Vian won a state title. We've had other kids in the finals at heavyweight, guys that were ranked high. But he's, just Mr. Consistency as a young kid, sophomore year, new kid on the block. And he just, he took that step every year.
Nice.
Steve-O.
Yeah, I was just going to add in, and I guess this would be a trivia question for Coach, because Teague, I know you know the answer to it already. Jeff, I'm very confident you're going to be able to get 2/3 of it. Can you get the third part of it? There are 3 Wisconsin high school state wrestlers that have 7 titles. Obviously, 4 individual, or I'm sorry, combined with team state and individual state. 2 of them are on your team. Can you name the third one? So obviously Liam Crook Grayson. And who was the third one? And you got to dig way back in the Wayback Machine for this one.
So is it Rapids?
No.
It is not.
Ellsworth?
Nope.
Way more back, I'd say.
Okay, so
early
before
in your coaching career.
Okay, so it was team duels.
Yep. He is currently a head coach.
Mineral Point, Curtis Fiedler?
Nope.
No, Curtis only won 2 individual state titles.
Yeah, he only
Well,
I just want to say that in the hopes that
you
Curtis
laughed at
hears
that.
that.
You laughed at that. He only won
he
2.
only had 2.
So he's a current head coach.
He was, yeah, and I'll give you one last hint. He brought his team to his team's first ever, as a coach, trip to Team State this year.
You were on the right track with the D3 guy. And I guess another hint I'll give.
Yeah, the name just escaped me now.
7 titles, 4 of them individual.
So he's a 4-timer.
Yeah, there's like 30 some of those guys.
Yeah. I think you might pinch yourself for this one, Jeff, because it was early in your career and this team was like a national powerhouse. I'm talking about Athens wrestler Craig Underwood.
Okay. So he won the 4 and then Athens won 3 Team State titles during that time. Okay. Yeah, that's a legend right there. That's a legend name.
Yeah. Steve, what was that? His freshman year, he didn't win a team title. Is that what it was?
I can't remember. That would have been
that would have been your senior year.
Yeah.
He was a freshman, I think.
No, he was a freshman. He was a freshman my junior years. So yeah, 92 was he was a. They did not win. Remember, they got upset by Riverdale.
That's what
Otherwise,
it was. Yeah,
he would have been a 4 for 4.
Oh, that's still the year they did individual score in the field. That was the last year they did individual score.
No, 92 was Team State.
Yep.
They lost. Yeah, we don't have to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
This is just, but yeah, they got upset because that's the year they were nationally ranked, and then they got upset at Team State.
That's what it was. All right, Jeff. Sorry to take away from the Kaukauna airtime there, but sometimes you got to go down the rabbit hole.
I can't believe it. I didn't get that one.
It's all good. You're a hard man to stump, Jeff. So
I'm pumped, Jeff. You're gonna like the one. I have one, and obviously I had to dig back to my Kaukauna source for this one, but he gave me a good one, and we're gonna stump Teague at the end of the show. So get ready for this.
Oh Lord. All right, so individual state. Anything else to wrap up individual before we go to team state?
Nope. Great. Brady Sprangers too, getting him on the stand. He's one thing or another. So that was good. And Colin, good tournament, good career. All of them. Andy, he's got a chance to get 4 medals, get what he wants next year. So kids did great.
So Jeff, without talking about wrestling results quick, how was your lacrosse team state experience?
Yeah, it was fine. I liked the room. Didn't like not being able to warm up on the mats. They got to change that. I mean, I don't know. It might never get changed for whatever reason. It's just, I love baseball. If you don't let me go take some ground balls, or I like basketball, you got to let me see the backdrop and take some shots. I know we're talking different. A mat, but part of the pageantry of the warming up at the individual state tournament is, the spectacle of the kids out there.
You get to warm up in front of the crowd,
right?
And
you could say warm-ups are overrated, probably a little bit, but go out there and be in the arena, and the kicker's going to go out and take some kicks and see how the wind is going. And it's just kind of weird. You just parade the guys out and have them wrestle without going in the venue. So finding a way to make that happen. I know there was a time thing with, the second round of duels, not having enough time to come in and get a 15, 20-minute warm up or whatever. There's some logistics to that. So, but, kind of figure that out. Kids, I put most of these in my comments. WIA does a survey after what you did, mostly positive, just certain things for the kids. It's, the march of the championship teams just standing too long. And I know me and you talked about that, just things, like this is the logistics of a new facility and having new entertainment for the fans and the pageantry of the drum drum corps going out there and selling lacrosse, and you got to play the video of how great lacrosse is. If it's great, you don't have to sell it. It'll be great. Just don't make the kids stand too long for your promotion of it. This is still about the kids. So get them, like if you're standing in the tunnel for 40 minutes and then you got to go wrestle, I don't know on what planet that's a good thing. Like, who says that's a good thing? Well, take it for the team. No, those 113 pounders, we gotta get them ready to wrestle. So that's where we started. Well, everybody's saying, yeah, but it's about the kids. It's not about equality. It's about the kids. So, no facility, those good space, as it gets bigger. And I don't know, like now you're going to put 8 teams when you get the gals there next year. So that could get, I don't know if like there was a numbers problem. I thought everybody fit in there great, but now if you add more stuff, there's that, but I think it's big enough. So, overall it was good.
We'll see how it shakes out next year. I'm with you. First year stuff. There's some good things, some things that could be improved upon, and yeah, I did let my voice be heard to the powers that be about it already, Jeff. So don't worry. I was
the only thing you can't fix is geography. I don't like it. Look, I have nothing against lacrosse. It's a wonderful city, great wrestling. It's just in the wrong spot. It's not where it should be. We can't take lacrosse and move it in that arena into the middle where it should be in Madison. But, I'm just one voice. So who cares?
All right.
We care, Jeff. We care.
Not enough.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, as the guy that lived 20 minutes away from the lacrosse center, and Jeff's right. We're just right on that one.
Hey, people said, "Hey, what if it was in the rest center up 20 minutes from my house?" And I said, "No freaking way! I don't want it at the rest center. Beautiful facility, newer than the lacrosse center. It's very nice. Girls basketball, awesome. I don't want it there. I don't want it. Why would I want it in Green Bay? It's way over by us. Why make all the teams travel there?" It's not Madison.
If we want a true center, we got to build like a lacrosse center-esque building in Pittsville, Wisconsin.
There you go.
At every state tournament I went to in the last 5 years, you could go and buy a Coca-Cola or whatever their products were in the vending. You'd buy a $7 Coke, 3/4 full of ice, fountain drink. And then you got a nice commemorative tumbler from the WIA, and it said, it had Madison and it had the capital on that tumbler, whether it be popcorn or some ice cream or a $7 Coca-Cola. And it would say the Championship City on it. And it had the capital on it, Championship City with a WIA logo. And I'd save those tumblers and run them through the dishwasher and have an iced tea in the summer with them. And I just wonder what happened to that. Like, oh, it's the Championship City. Okay. So much for that. Follow the mighty dollar.
We got a lot of championship cities now, if you think across all
unfortunately,
sports. Yeah.
Basketball and football are just not stupid enough to do that. They're getting all the fans.
Yeah. Steve, I'm sorry, but with your chair, I'm just thinking of Dr. Evil.
I'm
like
sorry,
with
guys.
Chair.
So, Jeff, I probably should have said this before I got on the phone. About 2.5 weeks ago, I got a new hip. So,
you text that. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going good. So I'm trying. I have this desk that moves up and down, and rather than if I sit in one location too long, my hip gets a little tight. So
You're such a young, sprite, in shape guy. Did you milk cows when you were younger?
I did milk cows when I was younger. Yeah.
It's a lot of squatting.
And he leg rode too much.
And it was football and lifting and
all that stuff. Yeah. But now I'm bionic, so we're all good. We're all good.
Yep.
But round
all
one,
right.
Red Hawks. Let's get off my hip. Let's get to the Red Hawks.
Great segue.
Or the Red Dogs, as I call
The Red Dogs.
I don't know why.
All right, yeah, we can go duel by duel, Jeff. However in depth you want to get in on each one. I have more questions. I don't even know if I'll have questions for the last duel because I don't know. It's just wrestled pretty straight up. But let's start with Milton. Take it away, Mr. Matczak.
Yeah, I mean, Pat always finds a way, right? Like I've known him for quite a while now, and they had a great sectional, got in. As a dual team, there you go. Like he would have said, well, we had some spots, but, you capitalize on what you have, and then obviously did a great job with matchups and, getting guys in the right spots and finding a way to get down there. And then they just got, they're on that radar. This isn't a team that is going to be, well, they had a sectional they could qualify, but now somebody else they're on the come. And so they got the young guys, they got the state champs, they've got some 8th graders. I know who they are. And, it's always been a great culture there, going back to Johnson and, the team with Josh Wagner that took Rapids, it's a wrestling town. And so they're going to be now a team that's going to have to be reckoned with in the coming years, just like they always are. They might take a little thing, but now here they're on the come. So, we felt comfortable with the duel, obviously. And, but it was just getting in and, getting that match done and having our kids go out and perform, just wrestle really, really well. And if we wrestle really well, we'd be moving on to the next morning.
You guys win 53-22, and then you take on a Brown Deer Mesmer Shorewood a Saturday morning. Oh, I guess I can ask you this, Jeff. You have a different schedule this year at Team State. Did that change the way you guys went about anything at all?
I always liked the 2 duels on Friday and the one on Saturday. And we were spoiled in D1. It really wasn't fair. It was just really nice for our kids. And so I wasn't going to complain about it. But again, if we can get 8 mats somewhere in Madison, it was the 4 mats, is what it was. It was the downfall at the field house. Obviously, it was crowded. And we could get up, when you made the finals in D1, so you went 2 matches on Friday, and then you got up and, you had your kids were at weight and you left the hotel and you went to the field house, and the D2 and 3 teams were there for semis, and they would weigh in at 9:00. And then the team you were wrestling in the finals, you were wait till they were done. And then you would weigh in side by side after they were done, and they could get warming up for their semi. But then, we weighed in, and then we'd get back on the bus and we'd go back to the hotel or to a diner somewhere, and we had breakfast. And we'd go back, like last few years, we'd go back to the hotel, and our athletic director he'd have a special room set up with bacon and eggs. And it was the one time where we were the kings of I told this to Mel, it was a one time where we were the kings of our domain, where we stepped out of wrestlership and became a volleyball, soccer, basketball, football type of player, where as the team, you were going to wrestle in a big match and you had a team meal. Okay. And we weren't wrestling, it was 9:00, we were at 3 and 6 hours. We were going to wrestle the biggest match of our season, and in some cases of their life up to that point. And so it was like, our basketball team, every Thursday night after practice, if they got a Friday night game every Thursday, they go to one of the players' houses and their parents host a meal. Yep. Our football team, every Thursday night, all the parents come to the school. They get Venable's chicken. They get Chipotle this. Well, probably not that. It's not going to play well. Or they bring in something and they have a meal in the Commons on Thursday night. And, they do that. And then they go and, our softball the same way. And it's like wrestling, it's never a thing we do. Everybody's huddled in the corner, sitting on the floor, eating applesauce and a PBJ and having some Pedialyte, or, just they have their meal, or maybe they got some pasta and chicken, some fruit. And that was the one time where we sat and we had like a breakfast, and our kids would not sit there and gourd themselves and eat themselves. Like by that time of the year, they were, it was, we're going to eat, go, and then we'd go and practice somewhere. And then we'd come back and check out of the hotel and go and wrestle. And so that was really cool. Like that was really like, it was the best time of the year. Now, how often you're in D1, there's only 2 teams that get to experience that, where you get up on a Saturday morning and you go and you have breakfast with your team, and then you're to wrestle for a duel at 3:00 in the afternoon from 106 to heavyweight. It was very unique. It was very different. But like I said, we felt like we were the kings of our domain at that time. It was just a quirky, weird situation where you weigh in the morning and you don't have to go warm up and wrestle right away. So, it was a little more rushed. We had to wrestle that night, and we'd only wrestle one match. So you take advantage of that, get the kids back. A couple coaches stayed back and watched the duels. And we had, we ordered Panda Express, brought in a bunch of stuff for kids to eat at the hotel. And like I said, our kids were like, I had in my room when Pearson got back from watching the other 4 duels, or the other 2 D1 duels. I said, hey guys, we're down in that room. You get back here. I took all the food out of there because they're going to probably lock the room. I brought it up in my room. I had the biggest, tinfoil containers of brown rice, pasta, orange chicken, steak, everything at Panda that when you go by, you go, and I had all this food, and we ended up dumping it all. Like we could have fed an army with that, but our kids, they all had a plate or 2. And then the next day we went and weighed in and wrestled against Brown Deer, and we won that duel. So then we were checked out of the hotel. So usually we keep our hotel. We checked out of it. So we ordered, I think what's right next to, connected to the lacrosse center. Is that the Radisson? Yeah. So we had a room that brought in a pasta bar. And so we just walked over there and we had a pasta dinner. But, and that was nice. Like we just wanted to make it something. So we didn't get a practice before the finals. Not that you need one, because we had just wrestled. So we were kind of in game mode. And then we went and had that, and then walked over and warmed up and wrestled. And so it was way different, but we tried to do some of the things that we did, in previous years that way.
Jeff, that might be the most profound explanation I've heard of a team meal ever. Yeah. And that was awesome.
And it kind of got me a little hungry too.
Now this podcast brought to you by Panda Express.
Well, or Teague, I got to take you when we go visit Mom and Pa Lurk. I got to take you and get in some Venables chicken, because Jeff threw in a little promo of that, and man, you haven't had fried chicken until you'd had Venables fried chicken.
Let's have a chicken, Serrano.
I knew we should have got a live chicken.
Great ref. Right. It is watching Major League season.
Oh, the finals, Teague.
The finals.
Well, Brown Deer too. Let's go circle back. Man, those kids, and it's different than Milton, historically, but you've got some great kids on those teams, and those coaches, to get there, and you want to go out and give them all the good matches. But again, we had the matchups we needed to win, 8, 9, 10, 11 matches. You feel comfortable with that, but props to them too, to get to the Final Four of the state tournament, and who was counting them to make that, at that point, and winning a big duel on Friday night. You get in there as one thing, and then you go, and then you're beating the team that won another 6-team sectional on Friday night. So you're, amongst 32 schools, you're the best dual meet team. That's the way you look at it. That's a great accomplishment.
It was one of my favorite postseasons, because they were like, people were publicly ousting them as like, wow, like they got here through like this type of sectional, or like they're just gonna get wiped at state, or what's up with the team state seeding. And I root for good wrestling, Jeff, but I was very happy for the Brown Deer group when they won on Friday night.
What were they seeded?
They were they fifth, Steve, and
They were
Wanakee
fifth.
fourth?
Yep. Wanakee's fourth. Correct.
Yeah. Yep. They were fifth.
Yeah. Props to Brown Deer on their semifinal appearance. And that brings us to the finals. Jeff, I think this is, since your first 4-peat run, you guys had a 2-point duel with Stone at some juncture?
Yeah, there was one that was 27-29. There were 3 pretty good ones. 4 when we lost them in semis. So, yeah, those were always pretty good.
So, out of your team state championship years, this was one of your closest finals duels. I guess I mean, you brought it up already. You guys went to a dual tournament because there's a couple teams that have Holman-esque lineups there. And what you guys do to prepare for Holman throughout the year, and take us through it, this moment leading all the way to the end of the duel.
Well, we saw them at Eau Claire. Saw a lot of matchups there. There were a lot of. Not a lot, but, got to think of how many. I shouldn't say there were a lot because they changed their lineup. We changed our lineup. And so, you might have had a couple, but you still saw their kids. You saw common opponents. I saw them at state. We saw them there in a match or two. And then, you kind of know, everybody knew how that duel was going to play out. It's these weight classes and these, and it's, I think we put 14 good wrestlers on the mat, as great as they were in the lightweights. We just needed to compete with them. We got to compete. And we felt like, bonus points were available later on, not any surprise there, but, when we got pinned at 126, that's something we didn't expect. You're not surprised by it because you're talking about a state finalist, a great wrestler, but you have to go out there and make it hard for him to beat you. And we were doing well. And, he just, what was it? A move, I think, like a half Nelson, like he just got tough and, put us away there. So that was, the third match. That was really the one that you said, okay, well, they didn't need that. So that's adding. So we felt we could compete against them in every match, like give them a match, make them feel you. And then we can get to some matches where, they're going to have to run around on the mat a little bit and get the ref involved because there's not a lot they can do. So, yeah, and that was enough. So that was the one. But every match, I don't think there was there really wasn't an upset anywhere along the line. There were some toss-ups, but those aren't upsets. Those are few upsets or few toss-ups. There were a lot where people would say, wow, there's 6 swing matches in this duel, and this team's got to win 5 of them, or this team's got to win, at least 2 of those. There weren't a lot. There was, very few. So the results, it was coming down to bonus points. Where could you get pins and where could you, prevent majors and things like that. And we just did just enough.
I viewed the Kaukauna-Holman duel analysis, whoever I talked to about it, I viewed that conversation as, like, how much do you know wrestling or how much do you know these teams? Because there are some people from both sides of the coin, from Holman and Kaukauna, that they'd be like, I'm feeling like Kaukauna by 20. And I'm like, okay, you obviously haven't looked at the duel because that's not what it. And Jeff, I'm a Holman guy, but I'm coming at this with trying to have no bias. I thought it was going to be maybe a 5-10 point duel, and they're just like you said, there wasn't going to be a lot of variance within who was beating who per se. It was the bonus points that were the game changer.
100%.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. It was pretty simple to see, if you followed the teams all year and then if you watch the state tournament, they have they're putting guys on the stand in the lightweights, guys in the finals, and we don't have guys at all those weights, like Andy there, but we have kids. Jacob Bailey's just a kid that nobody probably really knows about, but he'll, Holman, I believe, was a state qualifier. I felt we could beat him, and if nothing else, they're going to have to fight to get 3 there. And Trenton Van Schindels, Henderson's going to dust everybody that doesn't qualify for state. Anybody who's not a state qualifier, he's going to get 6. It's automatic. And, we could keep him to a decision as well. It was a kind of a quirky match. How that one was reffed, but I won't get into that. It's just, we can delve into that, but I can open some people's eyes up. But Henderson's just phenomenal. And so for us to withstand that early assault was, something I felt we can wrestle with him. But to beat him, it's another thing. So, there's another kid that we have that could just compete. And same thing with, then you got 2 really good guys at 20, 25, 32 was a little bit more of a match that Holman probably felt, okay, we can probably, if we're going to win the duel, we could, but like Perry Bear is pretty good. He made it to state, won a match. And so we were able to get that one, but it was a good match. They had it down to where, they could get a takedown at the end and put some heat on us. Then we got the takedown. 38 again, Taff, he's going to go out, and if he stays within his fundamentals and doesn't get too crazy, he can go with that match because, he's a good wrestler. And so you got to go 6 minutes. Same with 44, same with 52, so make those good matches, and then we can start doing some things. And then Holman has to do that same thing on top. And, we were just able to put some points on and get some back points and things like that.
Steve-O, you got anything on this?
No, it was a great match. A lot of fun to watch.
So that being said, Jeff, I know we both agreed that the results, spoke for themselves by the end of it. Were there any moments during that duel where you got a little nervous?
Zach's punching numbers and saying we're okay. So all along, but you're nervous all along because it's what's going to happen next. So you have to, the next guy's got to go out and get something done, get a spark going, or go out against one of their better kids and keep it close. So it's just constant battles. It's unfortunate, the 57 match. I hope, assuming it was a pretty traumatic injury and everything like that, that kind of slowed the duel down at that time. And it, you never want to see that happen. But I would say if there was a time, I think maybe just early in the duel when you get pinned at 26, like that's one where, okay, this match is going along and we're wrestling pretty good. And Nolan's not a kid that can score points, but he can hold guys down and be stubborn on the bottom. So when he got turned and got pinned, okay, we can't have that happen anymore. We took our mulligan on hole 1, hole 2 or 3.
Oh, 3.
That can't happen anymore. So
yeah,
that was about it. But then Perry got it back, and Hunter wrestled well, and Bryce, Breck wrestled well. Like you just can't let them run it up on you and tech you or pin you.
Jeff, I know you'll appreciate this perspective, and I'm going to take 30 seconds to speak as a Holman fan here. But I always knew, Castor and I talked about it, for Holman to beat Kaukauna, one thing has to happen that just shouldn't happen. And in the 285 match, when Nehemiah shot on Jepson and Jager hit this beautiful chin whip and his toe went 6 inches out of bounds, I kind of just took the breath and smiled all right, that was the one thing, and that was the shot. That was it. Not enough real estate, but it was, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
And that's the way it goes.
at that point, you're working on chin whips, in practice to win a state title. And I say that tongue in cheek because Jeff Jordan would be vomiting in his singlet right there. That like chin whips are not what we do at a high level, but a chin whip can win you a state title. It can, like, it doesn't matter how you win it. If you can chin whip a guy and throw him on his back and get a big play, but we, that would have been like something that would have been like, okay, we got to start teaching chin whips now.
Yeah, or chin whip defense.
I think
yeah.
the strategy of that match, was to keep it close. I think Nehemiah has the ability to score a few more points, and then, that match was never on the mat. I think that's where, we could have done some things, but like, just grabbing onto our head, and that frustrated Nehemiah. I don't know what to do. He's grabbing my head, so like, great. It kept it there, and it got to the point where, okay, Nehemiah, rather than going and shooting and getting chin whipped, let's dance like two polar bears, and we know you can get out, and we feel like you can ride them, and we'll do whatever. We'll go to overtime if we have to, but we can't get chin whipped. Don't get caught into that. And he was in, on a pretty good, I think he was in on a pretty good opportunity for a takedown. He was in on legs, but Jepson's a big guy, so he's built big in the lower body. It's like still going to be hard when a kid is, got his feet planted in the ground to finish on him on the edge of the mat. And then what do you do when you're on the edge of the mat? You get extended and you start dragging your feet. You see that happen with kids. We tell them, we're not going to get extended on the edge of the mat trying to keep our shoelaces in. So, you got to still wrestle in good position. And he got caught out of that one.
Well, 6 in a row, Jeff. Number 10 overall. How'd you feel after this one?
Felt great. Just, just this group of kids for 4 years was, and but it was a big group. So, the year before you had a few kids that won 4 and this and that, but it was a big group of kids, like 10 seniors that were there, and, a lot of them wrestled. I think 7 of them wrestled that night. So they, it was just happy for them, that they could, be a part of that and get it. And then, a lot of those guys were seniors at the end where they pulled it out for the team, we're going to be the ones that are going to, put the exclamation on it. It's not going to come around to the lightweights, not getting pinned to win. Like the starting weight was perfect for those kids to where our lighter kids and underclassmen could minimize some damage, and then they could finish it off. Like we would have started in the upper weights and then rolled around to, you have a big enough lead to do this. Like, no, that's you want to be down and come back with your guys that are invested the most years into the program. So that was a neat way to go out.
I did see that, Coach. I saw, all the things were going on. The injury just happened. There was a lot of antics going on in the mat, whatever you want to call it. And I think I saw exactly you do that. It was Crooks, Springers, Winnikins, and Lendeby, I think, if I remember right. And you had little, like, all your heads were together kind of over off the mat in the corner. And I don't know if that's the message you were giving them, but if I was a gambling man, I would say as a coach, you were looking at those 4 seniors and going, hey, listen, this is in control. You seniors, let's end this bad boy. So I don't know what that was all about. If you had any commentary on that, or if that's it.
Well, that doesn't happen without that break there. You're just kind of standing around and watching, and you're seeing a kid in a stretcher, and you don't know how that affects some kids. I would think that they're like, yep, there's this match that has to happen, and so, hey guys, okay, you got to go out and do it, and not trying to do too much. Like that message was probably the biggest for, like, in the case of Nehemiah, it's like win matches, like score points, win matches, figure it out too. Like, got multiple ways you can score, and If it's going to be on the mat, take a tech, get it. Like if you can turn a guy, and don't being so desperate to go feet to back. And then in some cases it's like, well, I can't turn this guy on the mat, but I can take him down. Maybe I can go feet to back. Like you have to figure it out. You have to play that chess game in your head of how can I get to a 8-point lead? How can I get to a 15-point lead? And what gives me the best chance to pin if I can secure that first? There was a lot of quirky tactics in that duel in Liam's match and Brady's match with, the Holman kids giving up, willing to give up a takedown at the end, and our kids not willing to take the takedown. And, the referee's like, oh, who do I call for stalling for that? And it's like, well, you didn't go for the takedown, that's stalling, and he's not wrestling, that's stalling. And only in a really like well-prepared duel team are you going to see, it's not like we worked on that this year. It's not like you're talking to your guys and saying, hey, if you're ever in a match and you need a pin, but he's willing to give you 0.14 and 15. And this duel looks totally different 3 years ago, when it's 2-point takedowns and 3-point near falls, doesn't it? It looks totally different. We're going to get more opportunities to pin, but we're going to have to work harder to get a tech. And same for them. Like that's when we went to these new scoring, I said, I always thought we were high school, the NFHS was reacting to a college problem, so college is going to this to have more points and to get guys more offensive on the feet. And so, making a takedown really worth 2 points if the other guy gets an escape. It's not just worth 1 point, in net effect. So I think, and way I looked at it, I said, high school doesn't have a problem scoring points. Like kids are giving up points left and right. Like we don't defend very well. So we don't have this problem, but okay, we're going to 3s and 4s and all this stuff. So maybe a tech should be 20, and maybe a major should be 12. And we should, just bump those up with it and make it still the same number of scores. And I was talking to one coach, very highly respected state champion coach, about this. And he said to me, that summer that it was going to be implemented 2 years ago. And he said, well, do we really need to see a tech? Do we really need to see, this many takedowns to get a tech? Get the guys off the mat and let's get on to the next match. And I never thought. So the rule was not done the reason we went to 3-point takedowns is more scoring in college, rewarding takedowns more. But then in high school, his coaches tell me, well, we want to get the shitty matches done faster. And so is that why we did it? Like if we were going to scoring points faster so you could get it done quicker. And maybe that's true. But when you get to team state now, it changes. Like it's a different thing now. So, some of these.
Jeff, do you need some water, buddy?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I just think, give me one.
I don't. Okay.
Yeah, good point.
But I just think, I thought when you get into a big duel, these points and getting to a tech faster. And then there's the stalling situation too, where in college, and they found that out now real quick after a few years of college, 3-point takedowns is it allows you to stall one more time in the third period. If I get a takedown and I'm up 3-1 instead of 3-1 instead of 2-1, and if we both get escapes, that cancels out. I get that. But if I'm up by 2 because of my takedown on you, I can stall one more time in the third period. And that's a big call to take. That was the first thing that popped into my head is like, okay, that allows, as soon as that, okay, you're talking about all these close matches in college, that one takedown match, it's going to be a 2-point difference instead of a 1-point difference. If you just look on it as a whole, first thing I thought about, one more stalling every kid can take. And then you watch the NCAA finals, the last, especially this year, they're able to take that stalling call at the end, the warning, the point, and rather than just that point doesn't tie the match anymore. Not to mention
analysis.
how quick you can get to a tech into a major. I think kids look at a 12-4 match now, and they're like, man, I got my ass kicked. I got major 12-4. Don't be so hard on yourself.
That could be like a takedown swing.
Yeah.
Right.
In 2022, that was it was a 6-3 match, or it was 6-3. It was you were escaping a takedown from tying it. Now he got 4 for his near fall, and he got this for his. It's just.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You have to take the scores of matches and look at them a little bit differently, and I think people do that now. But a lot of points scored with one move.
Jeff, every time we have you on the podcast, it gives me thinking material for the next month because I'm like, it's an interesting point. I never thought of it that way. That's good stuff. I like it. Now, it's a little insight into how your brain works nonstop, I bet you.
Yeah, it's just how it affects the sport, like rule changes and things like that.
Unintended consequences.
There is, yeah. And then we don't, and then something happens, and then we got to react to correct it. But I have nothing against the 3-point takedown and the 4-point near fall. It's just we've changed the outcome of dual meets. Like if you would score, you could go back. I never did this, but go back and look at a 10-year history of 1- and 2-point dual meets in the state of Wisconsin, and there have been a lot of them. Quarterfinals, semifinals, finals in all the divisions. Even go back to sectional finals because that's historic. If you can qualify for a team to state, and just go back and score all the maybe 2 or 3 points, just the close duels that came down to the final match, winner take all, and go back and reapply the points to giving 3-point takedowns and 4 minutes to the old ones, or doing 1 and 2s to this current 2 years. We don't have a lot of dual meets that qualify for that, but see if there's a different winner.
Oh,
somebody else win the duel.
Right. No, that's right. I figured that's where you're going.
Same amount of escape, same amount of near falls. Does that change? Okay, well, they would have had 2 more. That team would have had 3 more techs, and they lost by 1, but they only got majors because of that. It changed, and you're going with the rules at the time. I get that, but most kids are just trying as hard as they can to score as many points as they can. I don't know how much would change the outcome.
Might be a fun summer project for me.
Yeah, I mean, basketball. The only time basketball was like the 3-point shot. They added the 3-point shot, but other than that, it's 2 points every time the ball was moved.
Yeah, I know the one thing you would change, Jeff, if you got to hold the gavel for a day. Don't take away team points in a duel.
That's goofy.
It is goofy.
We do things like nobody's changed the amount of points. Like a home run is worth a run, and hockey put the ball in goal, and soccer, and those are team sports. But like golf is pretty simple. We're not going to change. But wrestling, dual scoring, and match scoring, when you do that, and we didn't change what a tech and a pin, like we kept it at 8 and 15. So it's just ending matches sooner and getting to majors faster is what it's done. And there's less pins now than there used to be because you're getting to techs faster.
Speaking of golf, is this the summer we all convene in the Northeast and golf?
We've been talking about it for years.
And what?
Hey, I'm pumped. I got a new
Zaxby's or Zaraby's. What is it? Chicken?
Venables team.
Oh, Venable.
Yeah, that's nowhere even close. I'm actually game now because now I have a bionic hip, so I'm ready to show off my golf expertise.
Yes.
We're past the 2-hour mark. I shouldn't be sidebarring after the 2-hour mark.
Well, there you go.
I will say, okay, Cardinals up 4-0 on the Brewers, end of the 5th. Not
Wrap
great
up your
luck
final question so I can get going on my trivia question that I've been just eagerly waiting to get out.
Jeff, congrats on another team state title. Do you have, I'd say the outlook on next year would be, probably looking to win a team state title again, but I'm guessing is your answer going to be get better every day or something along those lines?
Yep.
Yeah.
It gets hard. Everybody's getting better. At least 10 teams in D1 are, that are there already. And, like we mentioned Milton and obviously Holman, their better team is yet to come. And I would say, right in our league, Hortonville was really young this year. So they were a year away. So they graduate some really good kids, but how do you fill in? You got to fill in. And then you have kids that, Jack Thorpe's and kids like that just come in and they go and win a medal at the state tournament, become, something people that weren't accounting for. So we got a lot of those kids.
Get better every day. Follow the Kaizen approach.
The 1%.
And okay, I guess I had two questions. Final thought. I mean, you gave a pretty good synopsis on this year's group, and you had your banquet already, so you probably have an answer lobbed up for this one. Final thoughts on this year's team as a group of people, and then final thoughts on this year's seniors.
Well, it's a roller coaster. I think every wrestling coach has, the roller coaster, vibe going on throughout the year. Just managing so many things. So, we rode a wave and we were, good from the beginning and we stayed pretty consistent all the way through. But, it's that duck on the water that John Wooden said. You look calm on the surface, you see the product on the field, but those web feet are just going 100 miles an hour beneath the water. And you don't see all the effort, the work, and the craziness that's happening, stirring things up just to get that duck move across that graceful pond to its
destination. Is that from your book of sports quotes that you have?
I don't know. Like, I think I heard him say that once, when somebody asked him, the astute tie and the calmness and everything. And like, it just seems like you're never nervous. And he said, yeah, inside you can't see, the paddle wheels going. And that's a high school team. It's the Bobby Knight season on the brink, NCAA championship team. Great book. You see the end and you see the product, but there's all kinds of stuff going on. It's a constant battle, helping kids and dealing with, anxieties and, we're Teague, you're a pretty young guy, but it's even more, like social media. I view myself, I view my place in the world and the universe, different than the kids do or probably did at my age, but there's peers and followers and all that stuff. So, you have to bring a calmness to the kids, that everything's going to be okay. But, direct them the best you can. And they did a great job. I mean, it's a great group of kids. Seniors were, really going to miss them all. A lot of them going to college, some of them going in are ready to make a lot of money, right away, going into the workforce, set up with jobs that they've been doing through our work school program.
Nice.
Doing a really smart thing, setting their career up for big figures. And they're the kind of kids that, they've got that figured out and they're going to, do really well. Hopefully they stay in the community and stay involved. And then you have your college kids that are going on and, number one, get a good degree that you're going to use so that you can, so that path, goes in a direction is all leading one way. And not that you can't, experiment a little bit with some things, but, the sooner you come on to what you want, the more you're going to get a return on your investment. So, we have that. And I mean, all of our seniors, they have a plan right now. And, we're just looking to see them through.
I don't know if you've given 6 different answers or 5 different answers so far here, Jeff. And, the answer can obviously change from year to year. Because I think if I had to give myself life advice from year to year, it'd probably change. But
Sure.
any
Perspective.
advice or one piece of advice you'd give for first-year coaches, or if you had to go back to first-year Jeff Matczak right now and say one thing, what would you say?
Boy, there's a lot there. I mean, I think about coaches that, are there, they're really good, and then they're gone, or, it's, geez. So we got a lot of young guys, and I averaged, I think in our conference of 9 schools, I think there's been an average of like 5 coaches per school since I've been coaching. Even Nina, they've only had 3, but I said an average of 5 because some of them had 8. But anything is possible. You have to, you're really going to have to invest into it. You got to find a life partner that'll invest into it and support it. And because it's, there's no money in it at all. You got to find a career that allows for it. It's hard. Who gets off at 3:00 in the afternoon in a 9-to-5 job, or, even if you're working at home, like it's really hard to put stuff down at 3 in the afternoon and get to a plan for a practice and get there. Like educators, I know you talked about it last year, or one of the coaches, I think, St. Croix, mentioned, male educators and, we're looking for more female coaches with all the programs starting. So it's like, teaching for me right now, it's all I've ever done. Teach, coach. And so most of the young teachers I know, they don't coach. They have a side hustle. They're either selling houses, working at a golf course, personal training. They're doing something that can bring some real income to the family if they have 2 kids at home. And that's 2 kids is a big family right now. It's not 7 or 8 like when I was growing up, or you just didn't have a lot of money. You were just happy. So you have to have, consumables. You got to have stuff. And so, so in the teaching profession, like I'm pretty good. Like did it right, where no, I didn't make billions of dollars. I didn't have that, but it's a great career. And I could have done a lot of stuff like in the summertime. I never had a summer job, never. So it was always about volunteer coaching, because, made a lot of wise investments. Kaukauna was a great school district, went and moved up the ladder quick. Whether the other big thing too is for young teachers, if they're going to move up the ladder quick, what does that mean? I got to get an administrative license. I got to be an AP, an AD, principal of a building, get to that 6-figure mark. And so, or closer to it. And what does that do for coaching? It's just now there's meetings after school every day, and calendar all summer long. And so that becomes harder to do. The path of a 35-year teacher that coaches, a sport, it's still doable, but you have to make sacrifices. And it's, like I said, I did really well. Like I'm really set up well, to do whatever I want till I die. It's possible, but you have to be really smart with it, and live within your means, and so you can benefit from it. So, and then the coaching part is, like I said, anything's possible. Like it's a hell of a lot of fun.
Jeff, you got me thinking about my whole life.
Yeah.
Invest. You got to invest. Invest in property.
Trust the compound interest at some point.
Yeah, and you got to have smart people you trust helping you. Like,
True.
Got to ask for help. Get good people to help you do the right things.
That was great. Not only was it great advice, because I thought for a moment there was a pause. I thought you were gonna tell your first-year self that, hey, someday these guys are gonna ask you to come on a podcast, and don't do it, okay?
I didn't know what a podcast was in 1991. Like I said,
I'm sorry. What's a podcast? Yeah. All right. So you know who Casey Kasem is? Yeah, that's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, speaking of, well, yeah, that's good, man. I'm trying to think. I have nothing to add. I don't know. That sounds crazy to say, but
Sounds like a show well done on Jeff's part.
that was, yeah, Jeff, you did. That's like, I mean, I can't say this out loud, and I'm not, but I really do look forward to our yearly podcast. And I mean, obviously, I'm not rooting for any particular team in D1 in my role here, but I really do look forward to having you on now 6 years in a row. So,
Yeah, all those coaches are good. I listened to, Weiler, and, it's those guys. And every year I'll go on and watch them, and because you learn from them and what they say and what they go through. And then you feel pretty good about yourself when, they are going through the same things you're going through. It's not easy. I told you that, guys, before. It's like, God, I wish no, everything's always hard. The more, whether you have a lot of talent there, you're struggling to get kids to, get in a wrestling stance. Everything's a battle. If you're driven to just help the kids and be the best they can be, there's going to be struggles, and kids are going to do some things that nothing will shock me, anymore. Like, nothing.
Yeah.
We think, like, kids think that I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, guys,
I've been there, done that.
yeah, it's like, let's fix this. All right. Don't think that I'm judging you right now. Like, you didn't invent this crazy thing you did. Like, I did stupid things too. And you had to rely on people to help you get better and help you fix your mistakes.
Steve, I don't know what closer music you want me to play, like Hell's Bells or like that trumpet.
No,
thing.
If you want me to wrap up, I'll go. You talk about surrounding yourself with good people, Jeff. You mentioned. I mean, that's like the story of my life. I just I don't claim to be a smart man. I just get around. I just hang around with people that I trust, and I value their opinion, and they have steered me in the right direction. So
you're the average of the 5 people you associate with the most.
That is true. I just hope I don't bring them down in their averages, right? That's kind of how that goes. But
you're pulling some up, and you're not dragging anybody down, because if they're living by the same rule, they're living balance, and it's just the way it works.
But speaking of that, and you guys probably know who my source is. That's my source led me to my trivia question tonight for Teague. Coach, I know you'll get this one easily, but Zach even said, he goes, I think this one will stump Teague. So Teague, you ready for it?
Yeah.
All right. Since 2012, Kaukauna. So this is your era, Teague. So this is you. You were 2013 on. So since 2012, Kaukauna has had a state champ every year except 2 years. So it's a 2-part question. What 2 years were they? And now those 2 years, they had a wrestler in the finals. This is way out there. Can you name the 2 years, and can you name the 2 wrestlers that were in the finals those years that they did not have a champ?
All right. I'm going to guess 2013.
Okay. That is correct, by the way. Can you name the wrestler
that was in the finals?
That was in the finals.
That's got to be the General, right?
That Teague. I tell you what.
Lee? Yeah.
Listen, you know what? I sing your praises everywhere I go. For you right now to be 50% on this question of getting the year and the wrestler, my hat goes off to you once again.
I knew it was it was somewhere around that. And rest in peace, Josh Bird. They had some battles, and I knew that was kind of that time.
If you get this next one off the charts, mad respect goes to you. I don't know if I'd have got the year, but I could have gotten the wrestler for the first one.
I know Jeff has places to be, so I don't know if I have time to Rolodex it necessarily, but we know we had Liam the last 3 years. Was there Liam Grayson crossover at all?
Yeah, 1 year.
Yeah, so you can go all the way back to 2020. Keaton won his state titles. Was that 17, 18?
You're good.
Gosh.
Oh man, I got some tough choices to make.
You know the kid too, because
wait, is it 2019?
Yeah, it is 2019.
And is it Zach Lee?
No, he lost
No.
in 18.
Oh,
He would stay in
2019.
grade.
Is it a Leon?
Nope, they were graduated.
It's not.
You said I
Coach,
know the kid, Jeff?
Yep. You'll know him because a Holman kid beat him. That's not in that state finals match, but the following year.
Oh, Holman kid beat him. Oh,
And then
man.
we all placed him in that tournament, but we came back and took third when you could do that. We lost in the quarters. I think it was a Holman kid with a great headlock.
Oh, my gosh. Verhagen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ah,
Who
wow.
did Verhagen lose to in the
It
finals?
was some schlup named Nicola Rivera.
Oh, okay.
That
Wow.
team- yeah, nice. Very
I'm
impressive.
really happy about that.
You should be. You should be.
That's pretty good.
Oh, that
Who
is
was
good.
the
That-
Holman wrestler that had the lefty headlock?
Sammy Smith.
Yeah, that we like. It was, one of those things where you're in practice and you're asking yourself if you should even be working on this, paralysis by analysis, and then you're throwing lefty headlocks on him. I'm a lefty. I'll throw some, and it didn't freaking matter. He still walked right into it and got 5-pointed. Okay, you bridged off your back. You choked yourself out, bridging out of it. They come right back to the middle. Wham, bam, did it again. He had a good left.
Unreal. That kid. No one. I don't know many people more passionate about a move than Sammy Smith and his lefty headlock.
But Jaden, he ripped off 4 wins in a row, beat some really good kids, and came back and got the next best thing. He got third, so that was pretty awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Good thing to end on there.
That is, yeah, you bet.
Jeff, I got to say, out of all the ones we've done, this might be my favorite one so far with you.
Really?
It is. Good.
Yeah, ramble on like Led Zeppelin sang.
We did not go for an hour like we anticipated, but you have joined the likes of Joe Rager, Curtis Fiedler, and Mike Kelly in the 2-hour 20-minute club. So
You gotta exploit your editing skills, and you could probably chop some of these down a little bit. But,
I don't know. Nothing you said is editable, so we'll.
No. Keep it all
I'll
in
tell
there,
you what,
man.
though, I'll lose sleep over that 5-second pause that we had the one time. You got done talking about something, and then I and then I'm like,
Well,
oh, what were we actually?
I
talking
do remember that, and I was thinking. I was sitting there thinking about what he was talking about. I'm like, and I realized you weren't talking either, Tegan. I'm like, oh crap, that's not good.
What's a man who thinks all the time has nothing to think but thoughts or something like that, or
Wow, that's deep. I haven't heard
whatever
that.
the quote was.
Sure. You have
All right.
you have your book of idioms. You're gonna close in one of those.
I do have a book of it. Oh,
I do. I have a book
man.
of idioms too, but mine's at school.
I don't. I can't think. Dang, Jeff, you're putting me on the
You
spot.
had that
here.
one last year. You finished up with that at the end. It was like sweet or something. I don't. It's like you got it right. You had it right on your book of idioms. It was right on your desk.
I know. I don't have the book of idioms. I think on my desk. Oh my lord.
Right.
That's a shame. I don't. Yeah. Oh, here we go. I just looked up idioms. It is
Yeah, I
a
did
great
too.
book.
Picture's
oh.
worth 1,000 words.
This is an easy one, fellas. We had a good one, but it's just time to call it a day.
There you go.
Perfect.
That's well, Jeff. Thank you for coming on. I know we appreciate everything you do for the sport and coming on and sharing your philosophies, your thoughts, and taking this much time to do it on a Brewers night of all things.
Yeah.
Hey,
Teague,
we
here's one for
appreciate you.
Will Jeff be on for number 7 next year? Well, folks, that's up in the air.
Oh,
there you go. Good little idiom.
love it.
Nice. That was.
As for Steve and I, we should have some 4-timers on. Whether they're this year or prior years, I guess we'll find out. But I know we have this year's lined up. They said they'd come on, so we'll see how that shakes out. And If not, we'll find something to talk about, whether it's looking at old state brackets, interviewing guys from the pre-Jeff and Steve era in Wisconsin. We're going to keep ourselves occupied, keep you folks, keep giving you content. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And until next time, we will catch you on the flip side.